If you follow the business, you'll know that last week was a bit of a roller coaster for the markets. Will's here. How are things opening up today then?
Well, the European market's just opening up at the moment, and they are slightly up on the whole. Let's just take a look at those figures. Broadly, though, pretty flat, actually, so far in trading. Early days, of course, but it's been more of a rollercoaster ride, actually, in the Asian markets. Let's take a look at how things have closed there. Now, in Japan, the yen has seen its lowest level since 2010, which should be good news for exporters. But you can see there that despite that, and despite despite Nissan and Toyota announcing record sales for 2012. That has not helped the Nikkei, and that has ended 0.9% down. You can see, though, a different story in China with the Hang Seng and the Shanghai Composite ending much more positively after Chinese data showed that in December, industrial profits were up 17%.
One stock not doing so well, the world's oldest bank.
No. Now, this is the bank called the Monte dei Paschi Bank in Italy, based in Siena. Like you say, the world's oldest. And for the last week or so, it's been in rather hot water. It revealed that it has around 700 million euros in bad debts from derivatives trading. Those trades obviously gone badly wrong. And it centres also on the purchase of a smaller rival in 2007 for considerably above what many considered the market rates. Now, the scandal has called into question the judgment of the Bank of Italy and its oversight. And at the time, of course, the Bank of Italy was run by none other than Mario Draghi, who's now in charge of the European Central Bank. So this is a very wide-ranging scandal. The bank itself is currently being propped up by the state. One politician from the Northern League in Italy has called for funding to be withdrawn. But the bank's chairman said on Sunday it is looking for new investors, and he doesn't mind what country they come from as long as they believe in the company.
Now, we've also been hearing in the news bulletin, of course, about the unrest in Egypt over the weekend after deadly rioting in 3 cities there. A state of emergency has been now put in place. It all comes almost exactly 2 years on from the revolution that overthrew Hosni Mubarak. And it's clear that the country faces a myriad of challenges, especially in terms of its economy, as Caterina Vitozzi reports.
They called for bread, freedom and social justice. But 2 years since the revolution, protesters' demands remain unfulfilled, and they're back on the streets.
Unemployment's gone up, prices are higher, and we've heard inflation and tax are going up too.
A quarter of Egypt's 80 million people survive on less than €2 a day. It's getting hard to put food on the table, yet according to the country's prime minister, there is a solution.
I want to tell those people in the Tahrir Square right now, you know, after you air out your voice and your statements, please go back to work. Work hard for yourself, for your people, for your family, because that's the only way to achieve the aspiration of the Egyptian revolution.
But jobs are scarce. 1 in 4 under 25s can't find work. The vital tourism industry is still suffering, and with the Egyptian pound fast in decline, few options remain for Islamist President Mohamed Morsi, only a €4 billion rescue plan from the IMF.
It's the only way out to attract investments, as well as to bring more preferential loans that are more lucrative, with more longer grace period and less interest, as well as a couple of $1 billion that are grants that are waiting for the IMF signature.
But fiscal reforms will be demanded in return. Impending austerity means that life is set to get even harder for Egypt's poor and middle class.
So, from Egypt to another country undergoing significant change, Burma we're talking now. It's received a boost to its economy, hasn't it?
Yeah, the Paris Club has reduced a significant amount of its debt. Now, the Paris Club is 19 countries, a club made up of some of the world's biggest creditors, including the US, the UK, etc. They have forgiven around $2 billion worth of Burma's debt. Japan has gone further, forgiving around $6 billion. Now, Burma stopped paying its debts back in the 1980s, and it's being seen, of course, as essential for it to get back on track to get over this issue. Also, the Asia Development Bank and the World Bank have, between them, agreed to lend Burma nearly $1 billion for the first time in over 2 decades.
It's all part of a bigger picture of recovery, isn't it?
It is indeed. Politically, as much as economically, the country is opening up to the outside world. It was a completely closed-off society, much like North Korea still is to this day. But Burma is gradually opening up. Multinational companies, including Suzuki, Coca-Cola, HTC Phones, they've all been talking about getting back in to the Burmese market, and the World Bank estimates it's going to grow at around 6% this year. Of course, big problems do still remain. The Kachin ethnic minority is currently fighting with the Burmese army in the northeast of the country at the moment, but the bigger picture is optimistic, we could say.
Now next, to Iraq. It's not a country you would really associate perhaps with cinema, but that could be about to change. For the first time since the 2003 US-led invasion, the government there is providing new funding for filmmakers, but of course a host of challenges remain.
Director Faisal Al-Yassiri calls action on his film set in Baghdad. His movie is called Pink Dream and is one of the 21 locally produced films set to benefit from investment by Iraq's culture ministry. €3.5 million will be shared over the next year between feature-length and short films and documentaries. But when you're making movies, even millions don't go that far.
If the government want to help produce movies that promotes its own message, then it will fund it, and we don't have to worry about losing money on ticket sales. But if the government wants us to make movies that have an international appeal, you need modern cinema techniques and equipment that's expensive.
Since the US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003, the country's cinema industry has dwindled to almost nothing. Out of 82 cinemas that used to be open, only 5 are still operational, and they're all in Baghdad. Yet with this new investment comes hope for the industry's renewal.
I think that the return of Iraqi cinema production after such a long absence is a real, genuine, healthy sign of the return of stability here. A stability that'll be welcome for Iraqi filmmakers hoping to boost homegrown talent. Many of the industry's biggest names left the country over the past decade, taking their expertise and their star power with them.
Next to the UK, Starbucks, still in hot water. See what we did there? Clever.
We're not the only ones using the puns, though, because David Cameron, the Prime Minister, last week, he said that tax evading companies should wake up and smell the coffee. Also thought to be a reference to Starbucks, which, along with multinationals like Google and Amazon, has been in trouble with many in the UK for evading, they say, taxes. Over the last 3 years, they've paid zero tax in the UK, actually perfectly legally, but they have had profits of nearly 500 million, revenues of nearly 500 million euros. A lot of people saying, well, that can't be right, can it, when everyone else is paying their tax? Now, David Cameron has said he's going to get stuck into this when he leads the G8. On Friday, Starbucks UK's managing director was at Downing Street. He said for a long-planned meeting, not just a reaction to this speech last week. But the Sunday Telegraph, a UK paper, is saying that the coffee firm is considering cutting down on UK investment over this furore.
OK, we shall see. Finally for you, great story this. One Frenchman's found a rather novel way to pay his taxes.
Well, Patrick Fenelon, he had a bit of a run-in with the French tax authorities apparently about 4 years ago. So he decided that this time with his latest bill, he would pay it in coppers, in pennies and coins up to 5 centimes. Yeah. As you can imagine, the bill was €429 for this instalment. So he had 50 kilograms of coins that he dumped in the offices of the tax officials. Yeah. He says that apparently locals in his village, they all chipped in because they thought it was quite a funny idea, so they all helped him out, get enough coppers together. But he delivered it on Thursday. On Friday, they were still counting it, and apparently they're going to have to keep going this Monday because they haven't finished yet.
I've got the idea. Get Starbucks to do the same thing. That'd be even better, wouldn't it? You get several lorries turning up. Will, thanks a lot. Will Edwards with the Business en France fan cat. Lorna's got the latest news headlines, very latest from Mali, of course, after the break.